I'm Lisa, a 35-year-old housewife. I've been married to my husband, Jimmy, for 10 years. I live with my 8-year-old son, Tony. My son actually is asthma. He can't let go of his inhaler. I used to work as a company employee. After Tony's asthma developed, he often had to be rushed to the hospital. It became difficult to continue working, and I've quit my job now to take care of the family as a housewife. I want to prevent Tony from having asthma attacks as much as possible. I took care of our life, but my husband doesn't understand a thing about my son's asthma, which is a big concern for me. One night, when Tony and I were eating dinner at home, Jimmy came home. Maybe something happened to Jimmy at the company? He looked annoyed when he entered the living room, and he violently closed the refrigerator, mumbling to himself,
Seriously, the director is disgusting.
"Welcome back. Did something happen at work?"
Not at all. This is Mason. Has nothing to do with you. I'm going crazy.
Jimmy said, and he opened a can of beer and started drinking. Because Jimmy is the type to bring his work home, I'm used to this kind of attitude. I thought it was the same stuff as always, but while I continued to eat with Tony, Jimmy surprised me and suddenly started lighting a cigarette.
Hey, I keep telling you to stop smoking. Tony is here.
I tried to put out the cigarette quickly, but Jimmy continued to puff on it regardless.
Where's it? Where is it? This is the house I pay the rent for. Sky, we when you find orange? What? I cannot smoke a cigarette.
Just shut up. Tony has asthma. If you smoke, he will get a cough.
Asthma is nothing. It's just an overreaction. But she has a cough, an inhaler would cure it. It's because you're so overprotective that Tony is also sick. I mean, you should start working as well. I'm working all the time. Bring Lisa Brace just for my little bother. Cheap. I'm fired. I'm stuck.
I mean, Tony's asthma is worse than that of usual sufferers. Because there are times when he can't use an inhaler, I can't work. How many times do I have to explain to you to understand? I said this, and just as I feared, Tony started coughing.
Chuck, Chuck,
Are you okay, Tony?
cough. It's painful.
Come on, take a deep breath.
I immediately put the inhaler to Tony's mouth.
Slowly inhale. In use wet. Cough. It's okay. I can do it myself.
Tony took out the inhaler and began to inhale. Tony is already 8 years old. Recently, whenever he started coughing, he needed to take his own inhaler. After that, Tony somehow stopped coughing, but my anger did not subside.
How come you don't understand me? If you make just one mistake, you'll be in big trouble.
Shut up, you're so irritating. You're no asurasus. It's too boring to stay in the house all day. Restart about half our owner. I'm going after thanks for that for crying.
Jimmy spat that out and left home. We're not done talking yet. Always like this, Jimmy only thinks about himself. He just doesn't care about Tony or me. When Tony was a baby, we were on good terms. But after Tony's asthma started, gradually Jimmy lost his affection for us. I'm sure that the only thing I care about is Tony, and Jimmy probably doesn't like it. And in the last few years, when he doesn't like something, he leaves home, not coming back until morning. And on the pretense of overdoing overtime or working on the holidays, he was often away from home. From Jimmy's suspicious behavior, I have suspected cheating several times, but even if Jimmy was having an affair, I can't divorce him. I have no job, and I don't know when Tony will be hospitalized due to asthma. Plus I worry about money. I just end up thinking that I can't do anything, let alone divorce. That day too, Jimmy didn't come back until early morning. The next day, when I was doing housework, I got a call from my aunt. She told me that my mother, who still lived at my old home, had had a fall. My aunt was also flustered, and her phone call didn't give me a good idea of her condition. So I decided to go home for the time being. My parents' home is in a region that takes about an hour by plane, so I decided to take Tony with me and go back to my parents' house. However, Tony had a study presentation that he was looking forward to the following day. He says he doesn't want to miss school. I was lost. Depending on my mother's condition, I will be able to return home the day after tomorrow at the earliest. If he has an asthma attack during that time, I hesitate.
Mommy, it's okay.
Tony, the apartment we live in has many friendly neighbors, and Tony also knew and recognized them. In case of an emergency, I had also asked other neighbors to help him. I decided to go back to my parents' house. I told Jimmy when he got home, and I reminded him to take care of Tony.
Please take care of Tony. Regress for pasture. I'll be back the day after tomorrow.
The inhaler is on the living room shelf. The other medicines are in the same place. So if anything happens, please take care of it. Also, don't smoke at all.
I know. He went. You're so annoying. Scotty.
Jimmy looked annoyed, and he made a gesture to shoo me away,
Are you sure you're okay?
with a feeling of being pulled back. After that, when I arrived at the hospital and confirmed my mother's condition, I was relieved that there was no danger to her life. Apparently, when she was about to take a bath, she seemed to have collapsed from heat shock. Then she hit her head, and she seems to have collapsed from shock. Then she hit her head and said she had several stitches. But she's calm now, and she says she will be able to leave the hospital the next day. I arranged for my mother's discharge the next day, and after cleaning my parents' house and cooking, I returned home as planned. For the 2 or so days I was away, I was in contact with Tony. There didn't seem to be anything unusual, so I didn't feel like I had anything to worry about. The return flight was also at night, so I called Tony before boarding the plane. However, Tony didn't answer.
Hey, answers! He's not answering. Your Ash waiters. It's bath time.
The time is 7 p.m. Realizing that it was time to take a bath, I tried calling Jimmy instead, but I ran out of battery at the wrong time. Reluctantly, I boarded the plane like that, but there wasn't anywhere to charge after landing. In the end, without being able to make a call, I went home. It was late, so I thought that Tony was already asleep, but when I quietly opened the door of my house, Jimmy's shoes were missing at the entrance.
Oh, it's what Ricky doing. Gee-ho, as did Shutraska.
Moreover, the lights in the living room were on. When I hurriedly opened the living room door, in the middle of an asthma attack, Tony was lying on the floor in pain.
I died, Tony. Are you okay? I tell
Oh, you're burning up. A fever.
Tony has a high fever. He's coughing harder than usual, not being able to breathe.
Tony put the inhaler to his mouth by himself, but he hadn't stopped coughing. I thought that we could not continue like this, so I decided to take him to the emergency room immediately. When I held Tony in my arms and opened the front door, Jimmy had just returned.
Are you man?
When I asked, half screaming,
I just popped out for a drinking party. Show them why.
A drinking party? That's enough. Get it out of my way. It's my new nose. I'm taking Tony straight to the hospital.
even as he looked at Tony, who seemed to be in so much pain from coughing, anger welled up in Jimmy, who seemed to be unapologetic. I pushed Jimmy aside and headed for the car,
What is it? That's just a simple fever, isn't it?
ignoring Jimmy, who spoke so casually. I went to the hospital. When I managed to reach the hospital at the same time, Tony's cough stopped. When I turned around, Tony looked like he was about to faint.
Tony, come down. Tiani, Tian. Why are you so cold? Are you so cold? Tiani, I'm satisfaction. Tony, burst.
I continued to call out to Tony, who was limp. I entered the hospital. The doctor immediately started treating Tony, but I didn't feel like I was living. After a while, a doctor came to inform me of his condition.
Is Tony okay? He's in septic shock. Tonight is the crisis. Yes, for statute reality. I will continue the treatment. I'll wait here.
It's that.
That X treats. The doctor quickly explained it to me, and he went back to the procedure room again. The nurses rushed back and forth. I didn't feel alive. How long has it been? The doctor from earlier came to see me again.
Dr. Tony is...
I managed to save his life. He'll be fine.
Oh, thank you.
If the start of treatment was delayed just a little more, I think it would have been crucial.
I listened to the doctor, and I felt my blood boiling. If I had gotten home a little later, thinking about it makes me shudder. And at the same time, my anger towards Jimmy reached its peak. Sure, in a person who puts a child's life in danger, we can't be together anymore. Since, at this time, I finally decided to divorce Jimmy. After that, Tony was hospitalized for a while. The next day, he regained consciousness and was discharged. Sure enough, Jimmy said that he was busy with work. He didn't come to the hospital the next day or the day after that. I'm sure that with Tony and I'm not around, he actually felt that the home was peaceful. While taking care of Tony, I thought about divorce. Even if I asked for a divorce, Jimmy would be reluctant to even pay child support. If so, living alone with Tony is difficult. When I began thinking about it, Tony started talking about that day.
As on the day, once the study presentation ended, I caught a cold and got a fever. I thought it would go up soon, but I see. You did your best to prepare for the presentation. I bet you were probably exhausted. But what was your father doing? Dad didn't come home that day.
Ben, He didn't come back.
It's true.
Why didn't tell me? I would have come home immediately.
Because Grandma, she's hurt, right? I feel sorry for her when she doesn't have a mom, Tony said so as not to worry me. He kept quiet about catching a cold when we spoke on the phone. It seems that he only informed Jimmy that he had a fever, but even if Jimmy knew about it, he didn't go home. Until I came back, Tony endured the heat of the fever for more than a whole day. Jimmy only put in a notice of absence from school and left the rest. In this day and age, thinking of the elderly and our neighbors who might get in trouble if they catch a cold, Tony was hesitant to ask for help. When I heard Tony's story, tears filled my eyes. A child of just 8 years, alone. I'm sure he must have been very lonely.
Mommy just can't forgive Dad anymore. I cried and murmured. Tony made up his mind and opened his mouth.
Actually, I've seen it before on the way home from school.
Hey, what did you see?
After that, Tony told me a shocking truth. When I heard that, I swore revenge on Jimmy.
I can't forgive you. You betrayed me and Tony.
I returned home that day. If I remember correctly, Jimmy said that it was a drinking party that day. Remember correctly, Jimmy said that it was a drinking party that day. As I expected, Jimmy, who thought I would stay at the hospital, was drunk and left his phone unprotected while he slept on the sofa. Jimmy rarely wakes up when he's been drinking. In the meantime, I decide to check Jimmy's cell phone. I know the password for Jimmy's mobile phone. Defenseless Jimmy is the same as before his marriage and continued to set his birthday as his password. During my married life, I had many chances to look at his phone, but as I had no intention of getting a divorce before, I didn't even bother to look for it. But not now. I will use any means to get a divorce, but I must gather evidence of Jimmy's infidelity. I check his cell phone. After all, Jimmy was having an affair. But that's not all. More than imagined, Jimmy was even more a scumbag of a husband. I have further strengthened the evidence to corner Jimmy. To prepare, I told Jimmy that I would stay at the hospital every day until Tony was discharged.
I'm going to sleep in the hospital too. I won't be home for a while.
Again, Brenda's here. Deines Glaciers. Ezra, if of course was, let me know when you know the date of his discharge. Until then, I'll enjoy my single life.
Now is the time to feel good. In a few days, Jimmy will be in the abyss. He will be knocked down. And 2 weeks after I left home, I finished gathering the evidence. I was thinking of calling Jimmy soon. Then, just in time, I got a phone call from Jimmy.
Are you still in the hospital? Isn't it long? He just left the house alone. And back and clean up. Where's for?
Jimmy obviously didn't think I'd be away for 2 weeks, and he got angry and yelled at me to do housework. As planned, I decided to launch a counterattack.
He's already been discharged from the hospital.
I just terrified about it. He's already discharged from the hospital. I ain't as Welsh for you. Then why don't you come back?
I'm not going back there anymore. I don't understand what you're saying. Please divorce me. I can't be with you anymore. We're back at my parents' home now. In fact, Tony was discharged from the hospital a week ago. We had come to my parents' house straight away.
The in the house? Divorce? Is she with us? What's the suddenly saying?
As expected, Jimmy seemed surprised by the sudden declaration of divorce. There was a silence for a while, but he soon seemed to change his mind.
I didn't think it would be you who said it. I'm rather lucky. A treat. Actually, I wanted a divorce too. However, alimony and child support, I didn't want to pay. That's been true, but this time you brought it up. If you want a divorce, you have to pay alimony. Also, Tony will stay with you, but no child support. That is the condition of divorce. If you want a divorce, take this condition. I endorse me that you abhor birth. Take this.
You're such a lowlife. You really have no self-awareness as a father, do you?
He's sickly. Being always knowing when he cops. Well, it's true. I think I really feel that I'm his father.
I see. Because you have another daughter, you don't care about Tony. You do care about Tony.
Master. Artie now. What am I saying? Are you out of your minds?
Jimmy was clearly upset. He was flustered.
Because I know everything.
Are you saying you know?
It means you have a secret child.
Actually, that day, the shocking truth that Tony told me in the hospital room was Jimmy, with a woman who Tony didn't know, and a girl about 2 years old, was seen with them, walking around looking like they were on good terms. I first thought he was having an affair with a woman with a child, but when I checked Jimmy's cell phone, I got evidence of the fact that the girl is Jimmy's illegitimate child.
Is the other party one of the younger women at the company?
You've been dating for over 3 years. Moreover, 2 years ago, she gave birth to your child.
Bring you so much. You don't need to fuck.
It's because I saw your phone first. After that, I asked the research company for details. Is that one married too? They guys are the worst. Adam Axel.
Looking at my phone. F. Thank calorie.
How would you tell me that?
But then the parasite, that doesn't even work like you. I'm doing well now.
You say cruel things until the end.
I may have been the parties, right? Library, right? That's fine. That bitch is fine. Drow. But I'm with Hen, her daughter. I'm starting a new life. From now on, you will carry the burden of tending with Tony's asthma. You do your best as a single mother.
Do you think things will go your way?
Hey, I'm jailer.
Arrow truth, you don't know. Should I tell you? After you think is your daughter. She's not your child.
Ah, Zubeta. I'm not right. Doesn't that girl look exactly like me?
Don't play such half-assed things. Scheibe abrai.
Oh, wow, she's blonde type of alco.
Not that she's half-assed, he's splashing for Mary. Well, biasness is that your cheating partner is like. I checked with a research company. It's a fact. She needs mercer. It's the
I need this braces. I enjoy Culligan's video. But why? Ain't the fucking dared hell? Not that doesn't matter. I speak. I'm the watcher.
It's very relevant. Oh, to you and the woman you're cheating on me with our typo. Right. The child born from typo and typo wouldn't be typeb. Brusha.
Oh, he gets specialings in Rillo. I'm back. There isn't him. What you mean?
It's the child of that woman and her husband. You've been deceived until now, but truth.
Young kids helpers the beach. Big gazing. Meal tweakrist. I, for that child's sake, I'm transferring 100,000 yen every month.
That kind of money for someone else's child. They transferred it.
It's stupid to transfer 100,000 yen every month. I didn't do anything for Tony. Dear stays. My no mom's dad.
Is that so? I was deceived.
Was Jimmy shocked that he had been deceived? He fell silent.
But after a brief silence, he suddenly changed his attitude.
Lisa, I did on him. Hey, please forgive me, because I was wrong. As a great, I will not divorce. Let's try again. She's voice rats to ground. Is it beast?
I don't have to start over with you. You are a failed father and the worst husband ever.
Don't say that. Watch me.
Anyway, having you pay alimony and child support, it's just a waste, right?
I back at Joyce and I instead at Chine. I'm begging you, please keep quiet about it to her husband. I'm begging you.
Then,
After all, you are only concerned with money, but it's too late. I already spoken to her husband. I already reported your cheating. He definitely going to demand some compensation. You better be prepared.
stores 8260 1532,
How sweet of you, why would you do something like that? Doesn't... Joey.
210 122 15 sips.
By the way, I already reported it to the company.
15.
You can't believe boys are even in a company. Seriously, it's over.
0 132 1921. I did mean to forgive Jimmy easily. The reward for risking Tony's life. I was determined to accept it. After that, Jimmy and I divorced. It seems that the other woman was also divorced by her husband. Jimmy and the woman. It seems that they were each asked for alimony and child support. And because their savings weren't enough, they will pay in installments for the future. The one seemed to have broken up soon after. But even within the company, Jimmy's cheating was seen as a problem, and the two are said to have been sent to local branches. Meanwhile, I returned to my parents' house. I started working part-time. My parents helped to take care of Tony, so I live a busy but fulfilling life. Tony must have responded well to the clean air of the countryside, and his asthma symptoms also seem to have improved considerably. From now on, I will not make Tony feel lonely. I want to live life to the fullest,